This is the Snackable GRE Podcast. Welcome to the Snackable GRE Podcast, Episode 1 by Zone Review. In this lesson, we will be covering the spaced repetition system and how to use it to design an effective study plan. We will wrap up with our word of the day. One of the most important aspects of your GRE success is understanding how best to study, learning how to remember, and for that, I strongly advocate for designing your study plan around a spaced repetition system. This is not for cramming, it's not a shortcut, but it is a robust and proven method for deeply understanding and remembering the material in a way that you can masterfully apply on test day. So before we discuss how to use this while studying for the GRE, what is a spaced repetition system, or SRS as I will call it? Basically, an SRS means reviewing concepts at increasing intervals until recall and understanding are at their peak levels. In other words, you will study something once, forget part of it, then review it in short order. After that, you will let more time pass and review the concept again, repeating this process until it is firmly planted in your long-term memory. The reason this works is because of the forgetting curve. What the forgetting curve means simply is that as more time passes, you forget more. This is why when taking an exam, it is so often feels like the question you're trying to answer is kind of familiar. You know you learned it at some point, but under the pressure of test day, you can't fully recall. But there's another exciting part about this forgetting curve. The rate at which you forget things flattens out the more times you've seen it, which is why multiple reviews over time is so important. For example, if you forget 50% of your lesson 3 days later, and then you do the same lesson again, you might recall 70% of it 3 days after that, and so on. It makes sense in theory, you might be wondering, but how do I use this to get better at the GRE? Good question. The first step is to fix an exam date. You want to have a hard date scheduled on the calendar so you can work backwards from that date as you prioritize your study plan. I typically recommend a study plan last between 6 to 12 weeks. If you want to significantly raise your scores on both the quant and verbal sections, then you might need the full 12 weeks. If you are more heavily focused on one section and only need to brush up on the other, 6 weeks might be fine. If you try to cram in less time than that, you're not giving yourself enough days to fully cover all the content, let alone take advantage of the SRS, which develops a deeper understanding of material necessary for applying it to more complex questions under stressful situations. On the other side, some people might want to study for much longer. They say 6 months, 12 months. I recommend against that as well. If you're studying for so long, even with an SRS, you might still be forgetting a portion of the material that you studied all those months ago, and GRE fatigue can start to set in. It's only so long that most of us can keep our focus intensely studying for one exam, and life tends to get in the way, which is why I think that about 12 weeks is the upper limit for what's reasonable for most of us. After you've planned your test day, figure out what your study schedule is. How many days a week can you study? How much a day? When and where are you studying? Then use all of the ETS official guide examples that you can find and classify those as easy, medium, or hard. The reason for this is that hard problems take more time to learn than easy ones. Sound obvious? Well, one common mistake people make is to learn the easy problems first and then work their way up to the hard ones. We're going to do the opposite. Since hard problems take more time to learn, we will assign them first in our study plan. This way, you can plan to review these 2 or 3 times over the course of your schedule. Then do the medium problems in the middle, leaving time to review those once or twice, and finally save the easy ones to wrap up your studies nearer to the exam, since these will only need a cursory review. As you're working through all of this, I highly recommend keeping a detailed and organized journal of your practice problems. Keep track of your mistakes and even problems that you got correct, but they took too long to solve. That's a sign that you're not solving it in the most efficient way. Okay, now it's time for our word of the day. The word today is disinterested. This is a great word that the GRE likes to use because so many misunderstand it. Disinterested means unbiased, objective, and impartial. You could describe it as a lack of favoritism or being unaffected by self-interest. What disinterested does not mean on the GRE is uninterested or indifferent. You might see this sometimes used casually, but that's not how academic material like the GRE will use the word disinterested. It's a trap word that the GRE uses to confuse you, so don't fall for it. Let's look at an example of using disinterested from Homer's The Odyssey. In word and act impeccable, disinterested towards all the realm, though it is king's justice to hold one man aboard and love another. No man alive could say Odysseus wronged him. So what did you get from this? You can see here that it doesn't mean that Odysseus is not interested in his realm. He is, though, impartial and fair, which is why no man can say that Odysseus has wronged him. Let's read that again. He is disinterested towards all the realm. Then later on it says, no man alive could say Odysseus wronged him. It's this objectiveness, this impartiality is what the disinterested means here. Okay, that does it for today's lesson. Thanks for listening.